Welcome back to a brand new episode by the Dutch Investors. And in today's episode, I want to tell you about 6 universal lessons from 6 companies we have analyzed over the past year. Of course, we've analyzed more companies and more episodes will follow, but I believe there is something to be learned from every single company you analyze. And in this episode, I want to share with you 6 lessons from 6 different companies. Enjoy.
The worst day on Wall Street since the crash of 1987.
The Dow traders are standing there watching in amazement, and I don't blame them.
Could anyone do the same thing you did starting today?
Are you born with it? Is it DNA? Is it some early childhood exposure?
The first rule in investment is don't lose. And the second rule in investment is don't forget the first rule, and that's all the rules there are.
To give up what you're doing well because of guesses about what's going to happen just doesn't make any sense to us. I mean, we are going to be buyers of things over time.
What I needed to get ahead was to compete against idiots. And luckily, there's a large supply.
Let's start with LVMH, together with Hermès, the largest luxury company in the world. Around 240 billion in market cap as of today. Luxury companies are fundamentally different from other businesses because they grow on brand prestige, exclusivity, selling less, and emotional appeal. The functionality of these items doesn't really matter. While other sectors focus more on efficiency, cost cutting, perhaps scalability, these luxury companies and brands rely more on craftsmanship, heritage, and desirability to maintain their position and pricing power. The focus is more on creating an experience and storytelling that resonates with consumers. It's about making them believe a dream. This in return makes them willing to pay top prices, at least in theory. It's about providing the dream consumers desperately crave, and this unique approach results in pricing power. But it also comes with its own set of challenges. Let's talk about mono brands for a second. Hermès, for example, Ferrari, or even Brunello Cucinelli can become stronger brands in the luxury tier because of their deep focus on an individual brand and experience. And this can be a huge benefit. Their ability to maintain a singular vision and refine their offerings has helped them command even higher prices and build unmatched brand loyalty. However, their valuation usually reflects this high standing. This makes them more expensive to invest in and doesn't necessarily mean better returns. When the management is exceptional, like in Hermès or even Ferrari, these mono brands can outperform and create a more cohesive luxury business, as leadership can maintain tight control over their vision, unlike holding companies that manage multiple brands. On the other hand, you have holding companies like LVMH and Kering, and they spread their investments across multiple brands and industries. And this gives them a level of resilience during tough economic times, in theory, but it doesn't always work. If one sector doesn't do as well, other sectors can help make up for this. And this should, in theory, create a stable base for long-term growth. Every single division has its own growth rate and own desirability depending on the economic times. However, mono brands don't have this. The higher the tier, the less the economic cycle really matters. The Hermèses of this world become even more desirable then. Additionally, holding companies are frequently undervalued because it's difficult to accurately assess the hidden value of these portfolios. There might be a Hermès or Brunello Cucinelli within these holdings, waiting to unlock value, but you never know until it's already too late. What I do like about the holding company like LVMH is that they are well positioned to buy and integrate potential new companies within the luxury industry. And I don't really see in Hermès or Ferrari doing this. They are focused on a single brand and it doesn't really work for them. But just like everything else in life, it all comes with its pros and cons. But the lesson here is owning one great brand is art. Owning 50 without killing them is strategy. But if you could choose between a mono brand and a holding company within the luxury industry, and the valuation is exactly the same, it's probably better to focus on the mono brand. Okay, number 2, Mo-Bruk, and I would guess probably no one really knows this company. And the lesson is about local monopolies. Mo-Bruk is one of these companies you wouldn't really brag about at a dinner party, unless your crowd gets excited about incinerating hazardous waste. But in the world of investing, these dirty work businesses can be pure gold. They're built around local monopolies, thick regulatory moats, and a business model nobody sane wants to compete with. At its core, Mo-Bruk takes industrial, medical, and hazardous waste that no one else can or wants to process and neutralizes it through specialized treatment or high-temperature incineration. Some of the most defensible moats in the world are built in sectors people actively avoid: waste treatment, sewage infrastructure, quarries, animal byproduct processing. These businesses often smell, literally and figuratively, but that stench is also a moat. They require huge upfront capital, political approval, regulatory compliance, and nerves of steel, all of which makes them incredibly difficult to enter and even harder to compete in. For example, you probably know the company Waste Management in the United States, or Befesa in Germany, or even companies like Darling Ingredients, which turns slaughterhouse waste into renewable energy and feedstock. These companies operate in industries with high regulatory barriers, strong local or regional dominance, and a level of public resistance that stops new entrants before they even begin. Who in their right minds wants a toxic waste plant or a landfill built next to their home? Probably nobody. And politicians are incentivized to say no. But the result is, everybody that is there already is kind of having a local monopoly. It's not scalable in the traditional sense, but it's a moat that doesn't erode with competition, because the competition never showed up in the first place. So lesson number 2, sometimes the best businesses are the ones nobody wants to do, especially when regulations and local monopolies make it nearly impossible for anyone else to try. Okay, lesson number 3 is about my favorite analysis of the year so far. It's about Games Workshop, and the lesson is about built-in basements. Games Workshop is a strange, successful story. The company is listed on the London Stock Exchange, and it does no ad campaigns, it has no real social media promotions, it does no acquisitions, and it doesn't even diversify its revenue streams into other categories. It's just one universe, one game, and an army, literally, of obsessive fans who can't get enough of the game. The best intellectual property doesn't really start in a C-suite strategy meeting. It usually starts with someone building a game in a basement, thinking about it in the shower, or during late-night conversations with friends who share the same obsession. It starts on folding tables, with a problem, in messy bedrooms, places where passion, problems, not planning or profits, are the driving force. Warhammer, the game Games Workshop is all about, started as a nerdy tabletop game in the 1980s, made by and for hobbyists. Over time it became something far bigger. Long before Games Workshop figured out licensing deals, e-commerce logistics, or even dividends, it figured out how to tap into something primal, something we all have: the joy of building something by hand, and the immersion of living in a world of your own creation. It's about being immersed in a different world, in a different story. You can't really copy Warhammer, just like you can't really copy Lego. The IP took decades to build. The rule set is constantly evolving and changing. The painting tutorials are part of the journey. The effort you put in is part of it. The community gatekeeps the lore. And newcomers love it. There are dozens of cheaper Lego alternatives, yet no real Lego fan even considers it. And when people love what you've built so much that they cosplay your characters, paint them, write stories about them, put their life's work into it, and argue over their backstories, you have done way more than just selling a piece of plastic. It's power of bottom-up brand building. So the lesson we can take away from Games Workshop was that the best and most valuable ideas don't always come from boardrooms. Sometimes they start from basements. Lesson number 4 is about Portillo's. I analyzed this restaurant chain with Brett from Chit Chat Stocks back in May 2025. Portillo's is a Chicago-style restaurant chain and has fewer than 100 locations. Yet it generates more revenue per restaurant, hold your horses, than Chipotle, Chick-fil-A, and even McDonald's. Portillo's isn't really fine dining. It doesn't win Michelin stars. It doesn't serve artisanal cuisine. What keeps people coming back is the consistent quality, the speed, the affordability, and most importantly, the authentic Chicago-style food. Before I get to the lesson of Portillo's, what makes this company so interesting is that it's not really about a deep moat or cutting-edge innovation. It's rather simple, which I like. The restaurant, Portillo's, serves food, and people either come back or they don't. It's not about, there's no secret algorithms, there's no switching costs, there's no confusing technology involved. It's about 3 things: food, people, and operations. The right restaurants can effectively scale the same successful concept over and over again. Think about Chipotle, which we analyzed, or Texas Roadhouse, which we also analyzed, who have done just that. Scale the same concept and just keep doing what works. If you get the food right, have a scalable concept, hire the right people, and run a tight ship, you can expand for years and let the numbers stack up. I get it, the brand isn't invincible, its moat is more cultural than structural, and it's definitely not immune to wage inflation or even commodity costs. But when you build a restaurant that pays back its investment in 3 years and then just prints cash for decades to come, you don't really need perfection. You just need discipline to keep doing what works. In investing, we sometimes chase the world-class moats, the highest returns on capital, the strongest technology companies, visionary founders, and I like it. Yes, of course that's fun. But every now and then, a business comes along that's just good. It's priced fairly. It's run well. It's growing predictable, with decades of white space ahead. So the lesson I took away from Portillo's was that you don't always need the best product or the strongest moat. Sometimes a good business with a great playbook and a long runway is all you need. I thought that was a great lesson from Portillo's. Next up is Hims & Hers Health. This analysis was done by Matthijs back in April 2025, and the lesson is about trust. Hims is a company that aims to revolutionize the healthcare system in the USA, but also globally. But when we talk about the USA specifically, it suffers from many inefficiencies and bottlenecks for patients. The business is surfing on a big wave towards telehealth, aiming to make health more affordable and personalized. Both good things, I guess. They are the market leader in this segment today, and they're gaining market share over competition year after year, while the revenue has grown with a staggering 95% CAGR since 2018. The founder of the company is still at the helm and owns a substantial share position in the company itself. For decades, industries like men's health, hair loss, mental health, weight management were kind of built on silence. People didn't really like to talk about it, and they still don't do today, but it is kind of changing. And although it is changing, people still feel uncomfortable or ashamed. People don't like to talk about their insecurities or imperfections. Not to their friends, often not even to their doctors, and I can relate. The issue is not with price or accessibility, it's more with discomfort. And that's where HIMSS comes in. HIMSS didn't invent one new medicine, it just made getting help a little less awkward, a little easier. It meets people right at that tipping point, so to say, where you're fed up with avoiding the mirror or dodging conversations, and it makes it easy to take action. It's not very different from other great brands. Chewy, for example, sends flowers when your pet dies. Apple removes friction you didn't even know was there. HIMSS removes the voice in your head that says, "Oh my god, this is so embarrassing," or "I don't want to go to the doctor," and you probably know the feeling. In healthcare, trust is the product, and HIMSS earned it by listening. Turns out, making people feel human is one hell of a business model. So the lesson we took away from HIMSS is removing friction is great, removing shame is better. Next up is the largest company in the world. Well, it changes every day, but Microsoft. And it's about infrastructure. When recording this analysis, Microsoft is over $3.4 trillion in market cap. Our analyst Matthijs and Bouke put together 2 deeply impressive deep dives of Microsoft, over 60 pages of research and more than 2 hours of podcast discussion. It was a great discussion, and I learned a lot of new things about a company I thought I knew pretty well. Although Microsoft is far from physical infrastructure like buildings, toll roads or shops, you literally can't do without them. Most businesses run on Windows. They use Outlook for email, Word for documents, Excel for everything from budgets to billion-dollar models. Meetings happen in Teams, code is pushed through GitHub, servers run on Azure. You could swap 1 or 2 of those tools, but try removing them all at once across thousands of employees, and you'll see why Microsoft is almost impossible to replace. The real moat here is not only product quality, but how deeply integrated Microsoft has become into how the world operates and works today. Microsoft basically built the foundation. It became the default for millions of organizations, and once something becomes default, it's very, here nearly impossible, difficult to get off it. All to maybe save some money. So most companies don't even consider it. Other companies have laid this foundation too. AWS with cloud hosting, Visa with payments, SAP with enterprise software, Alphabet with Android, arguably Google too. But nothing lasts forever, but the infrastructure is definitely last to go. So the lesson we took away from Microsoft is, if you build the infrastructure, not just a product, you become unreplaceable. Alright, so that were 6 lessons from 6 different companies, all vastly different, and not every company ended up in a buy. We say no to most companies, but we truly believe there is something to be learned from each and every company. Sometimes it's a moat, sometimes it's a mistake we made, sometimes it's just a great reminder of what matters most. That is why we study companies, for ourselves, for you, and for our amazing members. Because every business has a lesson worth remembering. If you want to join our growing community of like-minded investors, check out thedutchinvestors.com. That's it for today. Like always, stay curious, keep learning, and happy investing.